The United States desperately needs a second revolution, but there are many reasons to doubt whether such a project can turn out well. One of these is that in so many countries where revolutions began with high ideals, they went off the rails towards authoritarianism and renewed inequality. So in this series, we're looking at what choices they made that probably led to those results and how we can do things differently. One problem, in the case of the Russian, Chinese, and most anti-colonial revolutions, is that they chose the path of conducting a military campaign against the governments that they wanted to overthrow, which seemed necessary at the time. Among the many problems with this is the one we discussed most recently, which is that in order to try to kill our opponents and the tens or hundreds of thousands of people whom they employ to try to uphold their regime, we inculcate in ourselves a terrible demonizing mentality which we can't just throw off after the revolution's victorious. Today I'm pointing out that violent movements create many more enemies. This is important because after a revolution succeeds in toppling the old regime, there's still counter-revolutionary resistance afterwards. And the greater the resistance, the greater the need for and seeming justification for repression. Today I stumbled across expert support for the thesis I'm advancing here. There's a recent book called On Revolution, co-written by 6 experts who have studied collectively literally hundreds of revolutions. In any event, they've concluded that, quote, armed revolutions exact a higher price when it comes to levels of violence, destruction, and post-revolutionary social control. The way they put it in another part of the book actually helps explain how it creates more enemies. Toppling entrenched power through armed resistance has often been accompanied by mass civilian casualties, the destruction of infrastructure, the interruption of public services, economic tumult, displacement, expulsions, human flight, and bitter polarization that can take decades to overcome. So with all those consequences, no wonder the sympathy for the revolution is less, the post-revolutionary resistance, whether passive or active, is greater, and as they said, there is a greater need for social control, which is not what we want. In the next video, we can continue exploring what we can do differently to help create a truly loving society.